A human being who has nothing left to lose no longer operates by the same rules as everyone else. Fear is the primary mechanism that keeps most people predictable, controllable, and safe. When fear disappears entirely from the mind, what takes its place is something most people will never understand and should never want to meet. This video examines the psychological state of a person who has crossed the threshold where loss no longer matters. The mind changes at that point. Priorities rearrange, consequences become irrelevant, and the behaviors that emerge follow a logic so cold and so direct that normal people cannot anticipate what comes next. To understand the state, first understand what fear actually does to the human brain. Fear is not just an emotion. Fear is a calculation system. The brain constantly runs a background process that asks one question with every action: what will this cost? Fear measures potential loss against potential gain. Fear stops the hand from touching a fire. Fear silences the truth when speaking could cost a job. Fear makes people stay in bad relationships because being alone feels worse. Fear is the guard dog of stability. When a person has nothing left to lose, that calculation system breaks. The guard dog goes silent, not because the dog is tired, but because there is nothing left to protect. The human mind defines itself by what it owns, who it loves, and what it hopes to become. Take all of those away, and the person who remains is not the same person. Identity dissolves, social roles disappear, future plans become meaningless. What remains is raw consciousness stripped of every attachment that once gave it reason to behave. Psychologists call this state zero baseline. Research from the field of behavioral economics shows that humans experience loss far more intensely than gain. Losing $100 hurts more than finding $100 feels good. This is called loss aversion. But loss aversion only works when there is something left to lose. At zero, loss aversion flatlines. The brain stops caring about protecting anything because there is nothing to protect. The 2014 study published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology examined how people make decisions when they believe they have already lost everything. Participants who were told they had failed a test and would not get another chance showed dramatically different risk behaviors than the control group. They chose gambles with a 90% chance of total failure and a 10% chance of massive reward. The control group chose safe options every time. The people with nothing left to lose did not care about the 90%. They only saw the 10%. This is the first major shift in the mind of someone with nothing left. Normal people calculate odds. They think about what happens if they lose. A person with nothing left does not think about losing because losing changes nothing. Their baseline is already zero. Every action becomes a potential upside with no downside. That is not bravery. Bravery requires fear that is overcome. This is the absence of fear entirely. 3 specific pathways lead a person to this psychological state. The first is catastrophic loss, a single event that destroys everything at once, a house fire that kills a family, a financial crash that wipes out a lifetime of savings, a betrayal that ends a marriage and takes the children. These events happen fast. The mind does not have time to process the loss in stages. Grief does not have room to breathe. The person wakes up one day with a life and goes to sleep with nothing. The shock is so complete that the brain simply stops registering loss as a meaningful signal. The second pathway is slow erosion. This is more common but harder to recognize from the outside. A person loses things gradually over months or years. A job, then friends, then health, then self-respect. Each loss is small enough to survive, but the accumulation becomes total. By the time the person realizes they have nothing, they have already been living with the feeling for so long that the final threshold feels like relief. The fear has been draining out slowly the whole time. One day it is simply gone. The third pathway is self-destruction by choice. Some people arrive at nothing because they burned everything themselves. Addicts who have destroyed every relationship. Criminals who have been cut off by every ally. People who made a series of terrible decisions and watched the consequences pile up until no one would stand beside them. These individuals did not lose things accidentally, they threw them away. And in the process, they learned that loss does not hurt anymore. Once the mind reaches zero, Behavior changes in predictable but unsettling ways. The person becomes what researchers call downwardly mobile in risk tolerance. Normal people avoid risks that could lead to ruin. People with nothing left actively seek those risks because ruin is already their reality. A gambler with no money left plays differently than a gambler with a stack of chips. The broke gambler has nothing to bet except time and the small chance of a miracle. That is exactly how these individuals approach life. Social behavior transforms completely. Normal people manage their reputation because reputation affects opportunities, relationships, and safety. A person with nothing left does not manage their reputation because they do not expect future opportunities, do not want future relationships, and do not care about safety. They will say what others refuse to say. They will do what others refuse to do. They will walk into rooms where everyone else is afraid to go, not because they are strong, but because they have no reason to stay outside. This makes them extremely dangerous to structured systems. Prisons understand this well. Inmate hierarchies place the person with nothing left at the top of the danger scale. Not the strongest inmate, not the smartest, the one who has no visits, no money on their books, no release date, and no hope. That inmate has nothing to lose by attacking a guard, nothing to lose by stabbing another inmate, nothing to lose by spending the rest of their life in solitary confinement. Prison staff handle these individuals with extreme caution because consequences do not work on them. You cannot threaten someone who wants nothing. You cannot bribe someone who needs nothing. You cannot control someone who fears nothing. The same logic applies outside of prison walls. A person with no job, no family, no home, and no future cannot be threatened with job loss, family separation, homelessness, or a ruined future. Those threats are already reality. When law enforcement interrogates such a person, standard techniques fail. The interrogator cannot offer rewards because the person does not trust rewards. Cannot threaten punishment because the person expects punishment. Cannot appeal to self-interest because the person does not value their own life the way normal people do. This is where the mind becomes truly foreign to the average person. Most people assume that everyone wants to live, wants to be comfortable, wants to avoid pain. A person with nothing left may still want those things, but not enough to change their behavior. Comfort is not a motivator when discomfort is normal. Pain is not a deterrent when pain is already present. Life is not a bargaining chip when life already feels worthless. Research on suicidal ideation provides a partial window into this state. Not everyone with nothing left wants to die, but many stop caring whether they live or die. This is called suicidal indifference in clinical literature. The person does not actively plan death, but also does not take any steps to avoid it. They cross streets without looking, they take drugs without measuring doses, they provoke violent people without calculating the risk. Death becomes a possibility rather than a problem. The terrifying efficiency of such a person comes from this indifference. A normal person attacking someone hesitates because they fear the consequences. A person with nothing left does not hesitate. A normal person negotiating makes concessions because they feared losing the deal. A person with nothing left makes no concessions because losing the deal changes nothing. A normal person lies to protect their reputation. A person with nothing left tells the truth because reputation no longer exists to protect. Truth becomes a weapon in their hands. People with nothing left often speak with brutal honesty because they have no incentive to lie. Lying is a tool for those who want to preserve something. When there is nothing to preserve, honesty becomes cheap and easy. And that honesty cuts through social games like a blade. They will tell a boss exactly what they think of the company. Tell a partner exactly what they have done. Tell a room full of people exactly what everyone else is afraid to say. Dishonesty is not virtue. It is the absence of fear. Powerful people understand this instinctively. Political leaders, corporate executives, and criminal kingpins all share one common fear: dealing with someone who has nothing left to lose. These individuals cannot be bought, cannot be threatened, and cannot be predicted. They operate outside the incentive structures that control everyone else. A billionaire negotiating with a desperate man knows that money is useless if the desperate man does not believe money will fix his life. A cartel leader threatening a rival knows that death threats are useless if the rival welcomes death. History provides clear examples of this psychological state-changing events. Suicide bombers are the most extreme version. A person who believes they have nothing to live for in this world and everything to gain in the next has no fear of death. Conventional military strategy assumes that soldiers want to survive. Fighting an enemy who does not want to survive requires completely different tactics. The same principle applies to hostage situations. A hostage taker with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous kind because they will not negotiate in good faith. They have no demands that can be met because no demand will give them back what they lost. But not everyone in this state becomes violent. Many simply withdraw. They stop participating in society, stop paying bills, stop answering calls, stop maintaining relationships. They become ghosts who are still alive. This passive version of the state is less dramatic but equally complete. The person has not lost the will to live, but has lost the will to play the game. They see through every social contract and find no reason to honor any of them. They will not work because working requires believing the future matters. They will not love because loving requires believing the other person will stay. They will not hope because hoping requires believing things can get better. What normal people call depression often overlaps with this state. But depression is a chemical condition that can be treated. Having nothing left to lose is a situational condition based on actual material and social reality. A depressed person with a loving family and a good job can recover. A person who has lost their family and their job and their home cannot recover by changing brain chemistry. They need to rebuild from zero. And rebuilding from zero requires believing that rebuilding is possible. That belief is exactly what they have lost. The mind protects itself from this state through a mechanism called anticipatory anxiety. Fear of future loss keeps people working, saving, and maintaining relationships. That anxiety is unpleasant but useful. It is the pressure that holds civilization together. Remove that pressure, and the person becomes uncivilized, not because they are evil, but because civilization only works when people fear losing their place in it. Lawyers, judges, and police officers know that the most dangerous person in any courtroom is not the career criminal with a long record. That person still has something to lose: freedom, reputation, relationships. The most dangerous person is the one who has already been sentenced to life without parole. That person has nothing left to lose by attacking a guard, killing a witness, or attempting an escape. The system has no leverage over them, no punishment left to threaten, no reward left to offer. The same dynamic appears in divorce court. A spouse who has already lost custody of children, already lost the house, already lost retirement savings, and already lost their career, has nothing left to lose by dragging the process out for years, making false accusations, or burning every asset to the ground. Normal legal strategies assume both parties want to minimize damage. When one party has no damage left to minimize, the entire framework collapses. Understanding the state does not require sympathy. The channel context is cold analysis of power dynamics, not emotional comfort. The truth is that people with nothing left to lose are not heroes. They are not villains. They are simply broken calculation machines running on different software than everyone else. Their actions make perfect sense from inside their reality. From outside, those actions look insane, dangerous, or both. The shocking reason fear disappears is not bravery, not enlightenment, not transformation. Fear disappears because the brain stops receiving the signal that loss matters, and the brain stops receiving that signal because loss has already taken everything. The guard dog does not bark at intruders when there is nothing left in the house worth stealing. What replaces fear is not courage. Courage requires action despite fear. What replaces fear is emptiness, a flat, cold, practical emptiness that evaluates every decision on one axis only. Does this change anything? Most decisions do not, so most decisions become meaningless. The few decisions that might change something become the only decisions worth making, and those decisions are almost always extreme. A person with nothing left to lose will take a chance that a normal person would call insane. They will confront a powerful enemy directly. They will walk away from safety into the unknown. They will burn the last bridge behind them, not out of anger, but out of recognition that the bridge led nowhere anyway. To watch this happen is to watch a human being shed every layer of social conditioning until only the raw animal remains. And the raw animal does not fear. The raw animal only acts. This is the final truth about the mind of someone who has nothing left to lose. They are not broken in the way most people think. They are not crying for help. They are not secretly hoping someone will save them. They have simply stopped playing a game that requires players to have something at stake. And once someone stops playing that game, no threat and no reward can ever make them play again.